Now the third step, so to say, or a third example of a real life scenario, which you might deal with quite often as a programmer, is when you get an array of objects. So this is more likely what you will see in an application, so to say, because most likely you deal with objects. You deal maybe with an API which sends back a list of users, and you need to filter or sort those users. So now we have a bunch of users in a list, okay? And we want to sort this array by letting the admins be at the top, and then the non-admins, the ones who aren't admins. And we also want to sort it by their IDs. So for instance, a sorted array would be like this. So this is an admin, true, and it has the ID of 1. And if there's an admin, another admin, it will also be under it. And after you've listed all of the admins, you just add the users who are no admins, so to say. So how would we sort this array in this way using the sort method? So we will need the callback function, as I said before. So this is where the callback function really shows its power. So users.sort, and as I said before, the first and the second, so the first and the second users. So right now I want to create 3 variables which will detect basically the positions of the different objects. So the first variable that I'm interested in is first user admin. And the way I know that is if the first is admin, if this evaluates to true, and the second is not an admin. And the second variable is the first user non-admin, so to say, not an admin. And this is the complete opposite. So the first is not an admin and the second is an admin. So these are mutually exclusive, so to say. And then you have the last one are both of the same group, so to say. So if the first one is an admin and the second is also an admin, or no, actually, I want to check if both are false, then we know that they're of the same group. Basically, there are non-admins, and if both are true, then there are admins both. So depending on each and one of these variables, I want to swap the items around a little bit. So the first case is if the first user is an admin, then I want to let it come first. So I want to let it come first. So the first item should remain the first one. So I don't want to move it anywhere. So basically, if we look at this list, we have these two. So we're going to compare them and we'll see, okay, is this first one an admin? And in this case it is. Then we basically keep this at the same position. We don't change anything. And the second case is if the first item is, or the first user is not an admin, then I want to return 1. Basically, I want to swap the position. So I want to make sure that if this first one is not an admin, then I want to let the second item take the position of the first one. I just want to swap the two. And lastly, if both belong to the same group, then I actually want to sort them by the IDs. So I want to return the first ID minus the second ID, and this is just the same type of sorting that you saw before. So basically subtracting. And in any other case, I just return 0, which is don't change positions. So this will actually sort the whole array so that the admins are at the top and every group is sorted by their IDs. So let's look at this. Actually, now that we have, let's say I have 1, 1, 2, 2, or maybe I can say, I just want to swap them around a little bit, like this. So let's just run this method right now, call it, and see what we get. So log sorted users. So this is actually what we get. It's not the perfect example. Maybe I can show you by letting one of the admins have a 1. So this becomes simpler. So now we see that all of the admins are at the top. So we see that the 3 first items, they have this admin of true. And we also see that they are listed or sorted by their IDs. So 1, 2, 3. And then we see that the second group, which are the ones who aren't admins, they also are sorted by the IDs. And this is how you basically swap things around based on different criteria. And I think that this is a very useful thing, because sometimes you really need to sort things and group them more or less. And yeah, I mean, this is a method you should try practicing and try to use it in different variations so that you really get comfortable with how you can sort arrays in JavaScript. But I think that this covers most of the cases that where you would want to sort things. Before I end this video, I just want to add a very important thing about the sort method. So this is the MDN web docs, which is a really good place to use as a reference for anything that is related to web development, and especially JavaScript, because it has a lot of information about JavaScript as a language and everything that relates to it. So one thing that you need to know about the sort method is that it actually sorts the elements of an array in place and returns the sorted array. And the default is the ascending. So if I'm not mistaken, let me just log out the numbers here, and let me just run sort.js. So one thing that you notice here is that it actually manipulated the original array. So this was the numbers array, and I called the method sort on it, and it returned the array, the sorted array, but it also manipulated the original array. So that's why we see that the second line here, it has a sorted array in the descending order. So if you really want to keep the original array, you should probably do the sort operation on a copied array. And the way that you copy an array is one way to copy an array is to just use the spread operator in ES6. So like this, numbers. And this way I can only make sure that I'm only dealing with I call the sort method on the actual copied array and not the original array, and then I can be sure that I keep the original array the way it was And that's why we can see now that it's not manipulated. So this is one thing that you want to keep in mind in JavaScript. Try to not manipulate values and arrays and objects in that nature, and try to always stay as pure as possible. Thanks for watching, guys.